to the Act 2 podcast, a podcast for the real-life working screenwriter. I'm Tasha Hugh.
And I am Josh Hallman.
And we are Act 2, a network and support group for the everyday working screenwriter. This podcast is just one of the cool things we do, so thank you for joining us here. We also just did a live Q&A with our Patreon members, which was great. We got to talk about their scripts. Some people came with questions about, hey, I'm writing this kind of movie, but I'm struggling with this aspect of this kind of movie. What would your suggestions be? Or have you experienced any of this in your own writing? And we got to discuss it. You and me got to discuss it. We got to discuss it with other writers in the group. Other people came with just general career questions, and we kind of just talked about our experiences with that same issue. Talked about managers. One of our Patreon members recently just got a manager for the first time, and that was really cool to be able to just hear that and congratulate him. It was awesome.
Spoiler, we're going to talk about managers later.
Spoiler alert. So we also do that kind of stuff. So check out our Patreon if you haven't already, patreon.com/ActTwoWriters. And there's that, and also all kinds of other things that we offer, like script clubs that we sit down and we all read a script, not together, but we read a script as homework, and then we come and we meet over Zoom and we talk about just sort of the writing behind it. What lessons can we learn from the do's and don'ts that we have just read in this script? And oftentimes we try to read scripts that have just sold so that we kind of have our finger on the pulse of, okay, what are people buying and why? And asking ourselves those questions and thinking in that way about scripts. So all of that's great. Josh and I do a live brainstorm of an idea, a time travel idea. We're still struggling with it, but that's part of the process. It'll be great.
Yeah.
So anyways, check us out at Patreon. It's another thing that we do. Or you can check us out on our socials. I am Story Thursday on Instagram, or Tasha 3.0 on Twitter.
I'm Joshua Hallman on Twitter. Josh Hallman on Instagram. Tasha.
Yes.
Hello.
Let's
go. I'm fired up today.
I'm excited. This is one of our favorite kinds of episodes. We're just doing it this week in writing.
This is a This Week in Writing. So, a quick story.
Mm-hmm.
You had said to Dave and I that you had found this script that you couldn't remember. And I was like, What are you talking about? No one could remember it. And then I started to get offended that you never sent it to us. So I was like, what are the dates? What's it called? What are the names of it? Because I just needed peace of mind to know that you had sent it. So in the process of me trying to find your submission, which I did, by the way, and I felt much better. I was like, okay, I can rest easy now.
It's called Untitled Private Detective.
It is.
It's not even about a private detective. That's how bad I am at titles. Anyways, go on.
What I ended up finding was a bunch of emails from you and I. And in the subject line, it just said TBD. And then you and I would just put down, it'd be like Mark Wahlberg. And then it would say like agent stuff. And it like you and I would just have this thread going back and forth, which led up to our writers group. And I know we've talked about this before. But that was, and then we'd pull it open when we sat down before group, and then we'd have our TBD. Yeah. And I think this is why we love talking about This Week in Writing, because it is.
This Week in Writing has evolved from TBDs, which we would always front load at the top of our writers groups, and I love them and I miss them because Dave, friend of the podcast, would also be included on TBDs, and now that he's not on the podcast, he doesn't get to be included, and that makes me sad.
Oh, damn. Poor Dave. Dave just turned off the podcast. But yeah, I love
They've been doing TBDs without me. That's what this is.
These are the topics we love because I think it resonates. So if it sticks with us, I think it might stick with other people as well. And things come up within the industry, and they're important things to talk about, but they're things you kind of can forget about if you don't talk about them right away. So that's how we're here.
Yeah, and they're also things that like you and I and like other writers would care about.
Yes.
That you can't just go. Like I can't go over to next door to Paul, my husband, and just be like, hey, Mark Wahlberg, am I right? I mean, maybe I can, but for the most part, like these are things that like we care about as writers way more than anyone else does. So it's really helpful to just have someone else who cares that we can converse to about.
Absolutely. So we're going to dive into it.
This Week in Writing.
This Week in Writing. Do you want to start?
do you want to start? I think you should start. You have like an energy about you.
Oh, I'm feeling good. Okay. First thing I want to talk about, authenticity in scripts. And this came to be when I was pitching an idea and talking to a group of people about an idea. And we were from completely different worlds in a couple different aspects. The reason I'm bringing this up is because I was talking about a father and son relationship. And I was discussing my thoughts and views on a father and son and kind of what it means to be a father and what it means to be a son and what it means to be a father and son and this and this. I was just really diving in and just kind of, that was like, I just leaned into that. I just went into that. Someone had said to me afterward, they were like, man, that's like a similar scenario that I had, but we had these two completely different backgrounds. And it was this unifying kind of like emotional overlap that was found between, you know, my feelings about fathers and sons and his thing. And so it kind of resonated in that sense. And it was interesting because it just got me thinking about people who maybe wouldn't click. And this is why stories are so great, because they resonate in ways that other things don't, is that when you're just authentic and you tell your story and you come at it from your perspective, whether that be maybe everything is all great in your world, that's your authenticity, then okay, great. But you know, that was just, it was just a reminder. It was like, instead of trying to like find something that might hit with someone, if you can just find something that hits with you, it's going to hit with other people.
I love this so much. And I love like the last thing you said the most, that because I do feel like, especially if we're stuck and we feel like we haven't sold anything in a long time or ever, how are we ever going to make it? We start to make the mistake of chasing trends or chasing what the trades tell us people are wanting, or what I don't know. I mean, my manager and agents are always telling me like, well, I'm being told that studios want this. So rather than chasing that, because you're always going to be late, because if they're wanting it now, by the time you write it, they don't want that anymore.
Totally.
Your true north, it should be, your true authentic self, the thing you care about. And that's also so interesting too, because they say this all the time. The more specific you are in your script, weirdly, the more relatable it is to everybody. And it's what do they call that? A paradox. Sorry, I forgot that word. It's been a long day. But it is. It's a paradox of our business. And yeah, like I'm sure you pitched something that was authentic to an experience you had, and yet someone who completely was different than you, like couldn't be more different, was like, I relate to that. That is so fucking cool. And that's why movies are awesome.
That's why movies are awesome. I'm not saying I'm not like the first person to figure this out. It was just
a
reminder.
I love that you like had that moment.
I was like, oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you do sometimes even if you're writing characters in your script and you're like, well, how do these characters interact, or how does this go together? And then I think you can kind of always go back to like, well, like what happened to me, or what would I think? Maybe it didn't happen to you, but like you just try to figure it out within yourself what is like the purest version of what you want to say. And I think that's a lot of times what can work. But anyway, that's my thought.
This brings me back to Inside Out 2, which I did not want to talk about again because I know it's a soft, sore spot. However,
I am boycotting at this point.
No.
That's what my daughter gets.
Oh, man. You are so stubborn. So even to Amelia. Daddy, can I go see Inside Out 2 again? No. I hope you secretly watch it at 3 a.m. and cry by yourself.
Oh, for sure. There's no question. I'll definitely see it.
Anyways, in that movie, Riley, who is the girl that all the emotions are running, her brain. I've never been to whatever, like, sleepaway hockey camp. So like I'd have no like basis to relate to that.
Sure.
But I sobbed like a little girl at the end of that movie when it just talked about her relationship with anxiety. So yeah, I love it. Okay, that's all. I don't even know why I needed to say that.
No, that's because that's what it is. You've never been to the camp, but you know exactly what it's like to be dropped off and nervous around new people, and I'm assuming that's what it is. Can I just say one last thing? Just throw my relationship with my daughter out there. I was dropping her off somewhere, and she was just like, I like had music on. I was doing something. She was like, "Dad, turn it down." I was like, "What?" And then I could see her getting embarrassed by me already. It just really hurt.
Oh
anyway.
no!
All right,
That's
let's
like
move on.
school. Oh no.
I don't even know why I said it. I just
What's
obviously had to talk
happening?
to someone about it.
I'm gonna quickly move past it because I don't even want to live in that reality with
Yeah,
her.
let's go.
Okay, so I was talking to some friends who are not in the industry. They were like joking around. They're like, "Well, what do you mean you're in production on, Tomb Raider? I thought you wrote it already." And I was like, "Well, yeah, but I'm the showrunner." He's like, "What do you mean? You wrote it and then you're done, right?" I was like, "No, as a showrunner, you stay in through production. You guide every aspect of it, from the editing, the directing, the sound effects they all go through me." And
Mm-hmm.
he was like, "Oh, I didn't realize that aspect of it." And he's like, "Why do you need to be in production?" It was kind of his question. He's like, "If you already wrote it, aren't they just doing what you wrote?" And I said, "Well, yeah, but sometimes I'm needed to like write something new, because when you see it, once it's produced and it's played back at you, it doesn't work." And he's like, "Well, why doesn't it work?" I was like, "Well, because I'm a bad writer." No, because because sometimes the way it plays in your head isn't the way it is actually able to be executed. And part of my job, and the better we get at this, the better we are at our jobs, is to foresee those things happening and make those differences less and less. But it will always happen. Even the best of the best people need to kind of rewrite in the moment. And he was very confused by this, which it happened to me today. But like for instance, something that happened to me today was that the pacing in the script was so fast. In this like really tense scene, we're cutting between three different storylines, and they're all about like pairs who are escaping an area, and like police are chasing them, and it feels very tense in the script. But in action, having to actually like see it all play out and have people actually running, it actually played much longer than it did in the script, which meant there was a lot more dead space, which means now we had to re-edit it and restructure it, right? But it got me thinking about a story that my manager once told me about how she was on a movie, and in the script there is a big speech that this person is giving to, let's just say, like his crew, his like heist crew, or I think it was some kind of war movie. So he's giving it to his unit, we'll say. And it's a really cool, like rousing speech. It's one of the climactic moments of the movie. And then in the script, this helicopter flies over, and it's even more badass with this helicopter flying over. But then when they got to set and it actually happened and they saw it, they saw the dailies of it, they're like, "Oh, this is actually really lame. It actually feels cheesy to have this helicopter fly over. Why is that?" Because in the script, it's exactly right. And so they realized that there was just this disconnect between the way you envision it in your head playing out as you're reading to what someone who is maybe like not Chris Nolan might be
Yeah.
able to execute on the day.
Interesting.
And so then you have to readjust, and that's where editing comes in. And that's why editing can be, its own form of writing, because now the helicopter plays really weird and stupid and cheesy. So how do we cut around it while still maintaining the epicness of this moment? So that's all, like, it's all to say, like, that's also part of writing. And that's what's so
Yeah.
cool about this job is the writing part sort of never ends until people see it. And even then you're miserable because you missed a line and it didn't work out, or
No, that's incredible. So did your friend get it? Was your friend like, "Oh, I understand now"?
sort of. I don't think he could fully wrap his mind around, but it's the script. They're making the script. So why is the script not working? Did you not
Interesting.
do your job?
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Wow. Okay. All right. I'm moving on. I want to discuss this Paramount Skydance merger that has happened. And by merger,
Okay.
I mean Skydance buying Paramount.
Can you explain it to me?
Sure. Paramount has been kind of on a downward path for quite some time, making poor decisions, not making money, bleeding out. And there was always rumors of it being sold. And Sherry Redstone notoriously was like not wanting to sell it because I believe her family has been around for like 50 years, like in a very powerful way in media. And I think at this point, the stockholders or, like people within the company were like, "You got to sell this company now." And there was enough pressure that Skydance has come in. David Ellison, the son of the Ellison who from Oracle and the brother to the sister from A24, Megan Ellison, is now going to run and take over Paramount Plus, or Paramount, excuse me. I had one person say, "Oh my God, a tech industry or a tech company is taking over Paramount." No, but like they're not a tech company and they've been around for quite some time. I don't know what. I think there was just some kind of association with Oracle. But I thought this was like, I personally think it's great because Paramount has been like in a weird place for quite some time. I know friends who have lost their job at Paramount. I know people who have sold scripts at Paramount and the script has now gone nowhere because people who were on the script have now like, it was just terrible. And I feel, I just got really optimistic because I think there's going to be some stability. This isn't going to like close until 2025, but it'll offer some stability. And there's really great producers within Skydance with like a certain sensibility and there's like an infrastructure. And I think it's going to be great for writers, and they're going to keep Paramount Plus going, which I think is going to be great for everybody because it's just another avenue to get content and your scripts out into the world. So I got excited about it.
I love it. That's so optimistic. And I'm on this train now.
Tides are changing. Feeling good. Hollywood is back.
You have been very optimistic lately. I love it.
I don't know what it is.
I think this is a good dovetail into one of our other This Week's in Writings that you and I both share, which is someone in Patreon, and our Patreon brought up in our Patreon chat that he had read an article recently from the LA Times about just the dire state that the management and agencies are in right now because of the strike. Post-strike, their talent from writers to actors just like weren't working. And so, of course, they're not making money, which means you have places shutting down like the Abrams Agency. And, you have people not accepting new clients because it's hard enough to get their current clients work. And which is when on our live Q&A that we did for our Patreon members, someone was like, actually, I just got a manager, so this is not true. And I think that's something that Josh and I are always trying to balance and find ourselves as we like share articles with each other and all these TBDs, This Week's in Writings, that we do on our own, is like there's so many articles that are so doom and gloom, but our business has always been so up and down that we're in a down that's gonna go back up, and we think it's gonna be fine. And sure, this article may have interviewed a few managers or agents who are feeling pessimistic, but that's certainly not the case for everybody.
It is, no question, it's difficult. There's no question. And I'm sure managers are not maybe spending as much time with certain clients who aren't generating money as much time as maybe they used to, because now it's like I have to focus on, and this is managers and agents, like I need to focus on what's going to keep me alive and keep feeding my family, as opposed to like, I understand all of that, but I think like a good manager or agent would be able to see the benefit of having writers or any talent that can generate something that's good material. That I'm just kind of going off and rambling here, but I guess what I'm saying is I feel okay about it. I think it's not like the door has been closed on all writers, and it is very easy to read all these things and just be like, fuck. Like we see it in every aspect of like certain areas of entertainment and politics or whatever, like the world, and you're just like, oh my God, it's so bad. But you just have to kind of take a step back and try to find the silver lining, I think.
I don't remember a single time in the entire time I've been a professional writer where someone was like, the business is so easy right now.
I don't either.
Everyone is always saying it's terrible. It's the worst it's ever been.
It feels like that. I don't know. But it's gonna, this is like a market correction, and
I think it'll be fine.
It'll pass.
But to your point, which is a really good one about like risk time management with managers and agents, like if they are going to take on someone new in a time when the industry is coming out of a strike and trying to recorrect itself, it behooves you to stand out and behooves you to prove that you're not someone they're going to have to like spend a lot of time working on and developing, because they want to make money. And the more you can convince them I'm someone who can make you money, the better off you will be, and the more appetizing you will seem. And I think a huge part of that is they don't want to feel like you're yet another writer who they have to constantly bug to write. Because if you're not giving them stuff to sell or samples that they can send out to get you meetings, they just don't have the time for you. So
Yeah.
write those pilots, write multiple pilots. When you're done with one, start on a new one. If you're in TV, if you're in features, if you're in both, write, so that when you do meet with managers, you can say, I have all this stuff, and all that I do with my time is I write, and I am a machine, and I pump things out. You're never gonna have to worry about me. I got you. Right. So the more you can be that person for them, the easier it will be for you to get in on their new client list.
I think so. I also just want to say, like, I'm not oblivious to how difficult things are. Like, I'm not like sitting here being like, everything's fine. These articles are terrible. We have friends, right? People are in different areas of the industry where things just aren't being made, right?
Yeah.
So it's taking a massive toll on across the industry. But I just don't think that's sustainable. We live in a land of too much content. Attention spans are just too short. We're going to need things.
Yeah, agree.
I want to talk about some movies. I want to talk about Axel F, the new Netflix Beverly Hills Cop movie.
Yes,
It was something that was really interesting to me is I saw an article with Eddie Murphy who made a comment about Beverly Hills Cop and said that he basically felt like Beverly Hills Cop was the first action comedy, to which I was like, and I did some digging.
Yeah.
And I went back and looked.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited about this.
And 48 Hours came out, ironically, with Eddie Murphy before Beverly Hills Cop. But he was like a criminal in that. And so maybe Eddie Murphy meant like first buddy comedy of like cops, like where the good guys are like shooting people and they're making light of it. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But I think he might not be wrong. I think Eddie Murphy may have started like the action comedy we know now.
Really?
Because then after that, it starts getting into, another 48 Hours and then Lethal Weapon and then Midnight Run. And then it's like the buddy comedy.
Midnight Run is after that?
Yeah, all after it. I know someone's going to write me and correct me on this and be like, dude.
No, you're blowing my mind now. And now I feel like I want to do an episode on the origins of action comedy.
I've never thought about it before. I was just kind of like, they just always kind of like existed. And to be honest, I kind of felt like Lethal Weapon was like my first kind of action-y comedy, Die Hard. Like those were the movies that I gravitated towards. So I just assumed, I was like, yeah, it was probably like that. But it wasn't. Eddie Murphy, the man. And by the way, I really liked Axel F.
I really want to see it. I just saw no ads for it, so I didn't even know when it came out, and it's not popping up on my Netflix, so I like keep forgetting about it.
Yeah.
But I love Beverly Hills Cop series. It was also one of my favorites. Not quite at Lethal Weapon level in terms of rewatching, but I rewatched it a lot. I love it, love it, love it. So I'm really excited for it, and I'm glad you liked it. That's hopeful to me. But I'm so sad that it kind of went under the wire or whatever.
That's weird. It was number 1 trending on my Netflix.
Really?
Yeah.
So I'm doing something wrong. I'm the problem. It's me.
That's correct. Although Netflix probably didn't have to look too far to be like, who can we advertise this to? Who likes action movies and action comedies? Anyway, that's all.
All right. I am going to loop it back to something you brought up at the beginning of this podcast, which is,
let's go.
I was on a plane for a little while and I decided I'm going to read old stuff because something my manager wants to work with me on is to have stuff that's ready for actors, like have an actor in mind for something. Because there are now that I'm a showrunner and I've been working with a lot of cool actors and actresses who love the scripts that they're working on. It's great to be like, oh, you loved working on Tomb Raider? Like, here's a script that I think you could star in that would be cool for you. It just helps, move things along.
Yeah, of course.
And so I was like, sure, yes, I absolutely have something. Let me look through my giant folder of old projects, and I came across this untitled private detective story, which again, at one point it was called Bodyguard, and it's not about a bodyguard either. I don't know what I was thinking, Josh.
But like a botanist, like a dog walker. You're just like, you know what?
Bodyguard, dog walker. That's kind of a cool movie. Not opposed.
Yeah, I could see it.
But I started reading this and it felt like it was so weird. I wrote this in 2018 and it felt like it was someone else's script. But I also, there are like moments like flashing in my brain of having written some of these moments in the script. But I was like laughing out loud. I was like really invested, and I was like kind of embarrassed that I was like so into my own script. But I really enjoyed it. I was like texting you guys. I was like, oh my God, this script is so good. And I wrote like 41 pages of this script. And then I was like, do I have an outline for this? Because I don't remember where this is going. This was many years ago. And thank God I had an outline. Past Tasha was very smart and wrote a full outline for what this is. And I like basically this has moved up in my schedule in terms of things to finish now, because now I have an outline and I have half a script, and I didn't I've had that for 6 years, right? And so also interestingly about it, I talked to my manager. I was like, I unearthed this thing. I think this would be great for this actress. And she was like, okay, well, do you want to send it to me? I was like, no. She's like, why? I was like, because I think you will derail me. Like, I just need to ride this high of having reread it and been excited about it so I can just get it done. Because once you start asking me questions about, well, this doesn't make sense, or what is the theme? Like, I'm just going to get so buried in just like the lethargy of the terrible parts of writing. So I'm just going to write it. And the other day she's like, you're not even sending me the outline? I was like, no.
Wow. I feel like this is a huge advancement. This is like, you're just like, I'm going rogue.
I'm rogue.
Just doing it. I love it. You know, I'm obviously very pro.
You are. You're my inspiration, which reminds me of when I had my agent, Mark Hardixon, on, and he was like, my worst nightmare as an agent is receiving a script that I didn't know about.
Oh, yeah, I guess. But you're so close. It's so like
close.
And then you give it to 1L, and then, you know, it's just when you're close with something, you can't just stop.
No.
If nothing else, it's just to finish it and just be like, I'm done with it. Like I did it. I climbed the mountain.
I got to have another. I was texting Josh last night. I kind of got in this like depressive spiral as a writer of just like, everyone has new stuff and I don't have any new stuff, and I'm so lame and I'll never have a career, and you know, because I can't write original specs. And so this is a chance to get on that boat.
I was like, that's right.
You suck.
I've got one more thing.
Okay.
Just because I'm in the spirit of movies.
Yeah.
The movie Twisters is coming out.
Yes, it is.
So, as I was saying, I actually talked about this on the Patreon for a little bit, but I felt like everybody in the world was planning to go see Twisters. I just assumed everyone knew what Twister is and was. And I was like, that movie's incredible. I love that movie. Everyone loves that movie. Obviously, where everyone's going to see Twisters. But I have found out that my love for Twister might be a little more than other people.
I find this so bizarre.
Okay, yes. So we're on the same page about Twister.
Yes, Twister was incredible. Someone last night said it was their favorite movie growing up, which, like, yes, of course it was. Yeah, I am not surprised. You have good taste.
And I've talked to two people who are younger, and they have never even heard of Twister. This girl I talked to, because I started to do like this, I was asking like many people, like just asking questions to the point I think Nicole was like, stop talking about Twister. And I was like, have you seen Twister? And this one, someone was like, oh, I just thought it was a Glenn Powell movie. I had no idea it was a sequel. I was like, it's called Twisters. Like there's 2 Twisters or more.
Train the title.
So anyway, I did some look at it. Twister made $400 million. No, $500 million.
Okay, so you're not wrong. It was a huge movie.
It was gigantic. This movie's freaking awesome. And by the way, I'm just going to read the log line just since we're here.
Okay.
2 storm chasers on the brink of divorce must work together to create an advanced weather alert system by putting themselves in the crosshairs of extremely violent tornadoes. Come on.
That could so easily be a terrible movie, but it wasn't.
Oh, totally.
Wait, who wrote this movie?
Well, Tasha, the first draft was by Michael Crichton.
Right.
The second draft was by someone who's probably outstanding. Oh, I know Joss Whedon worked on it at some point. I think
Some
it
really
actually went
good
through a lot
people.
of different iterations. But when Michael Crichton is just sprinkling his magic over something, it's probably going to work out.
Yeah. It's a really good movie.
Dude, it's incredible. I wish I came up with that log line.
See, I think you just love the log line so much because you love the movie so much. It's kind of like a bland log line. It's sort of like that could be a B disaster movie. It's
Yeah,
not.
absolutely. You're right. It's so awesome. It's just it's like it's almost like a grounded. I know this sounds insane because it's like an insane action movie, but like there really is divorce issues. There's like the Bill Paxton character and the Helen Hunt, and like there's these moments because I watched it recently that are they don't feel like action movie moments.
Yeah.
They feel like there's like in like a different movie, and then by the way, there's tornadoes here.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's sort of the flip from B movie to A movie.
That is very true.
Is like in an action disaster movie, that sort of is the main focus. That's what drives the movie. Whereas I think in Twister, their relationship drives the movie. And the Twister is just the storms that are happening around them are just like the things they have to do to repair their relationship, but it's not about them. The Twister.
What if Twisters is not great?
It can't be as good as the first one.
Can't it?
However, they are following in the footsteps really well, it seems.
Yeah. The beautiful thing that happened with Maverick, the greatest movie in the last 10 years, is it like created a template for these movies that were out, like that were released 20 years ago or more, and be like, that was a success. Now just do that, but like Maverick. And I feel like Twister is the perfect vehicle to just redo what Twister was, but like Maverick it up. I don't really know fully what that means, but just Maverick it up. That's all I'm saying. Just do the exact same thing, but just like amp it up a little bit.
It's interesting because this dovetails into another idea that I've been sort of putting off talking about, but it's completely relevant, which is I spoke with a studio exec recently and he brought up Maverick and he was like, it's so genius because there's a big idea that you can pitch in the elevator, which is the cocky student now becomes the teacher of other cocky students. Like that's very cool. And you immediately understand what that movie is, right? Like it has a big idea. So like Twisters, to repeat the success of the first one, will have to have that kind of simplicity of story and emotion, I think, to resonate the same way. And it seems like from the trailer, they don't know each other, which is fine, but I want to know what the conflict is between them. Because again, in the original, they like have to get over the issues that are already there before the movie starts.
I hope it's not like Saving a Farm, something like that.
It just feels like it's a love story set in the world of Twisters. That's kind of how it feels in the trailer.
Yeah, Glenn Powell's probably just like a gunslinger. He's just putting himself in the way of danger. He's just too reckless.
Maybe he's too reckless, but she's too careful.
Yeah. Now they're together. Maybe they are together, and she gets pregnant, and now he's got to like. And I'm having a baby. He's like, but this is the storm. I'm related to Bill Paxton. I have to go finish what he started.
Do you think he's related to Bill Paxton?
The ages match. Why not?
Like he's their child?
Listen.
Do you think Helen Hunt makes a surprise appearance?
Oh. Well, Iceman did in Maverick, so Helen Hunt should do it in Twisters. I'm in.
We've spent too much time talking about this movie, but
I'm sorry.
Go on.
All right, go for it. Go.
I'm super stoked. Okay, we have two more things actually. I will do mine, and you have another one. I'm reminding you. Okay, so I sat down with my manager recently and did something that is extremely helpful. I haven't done it with her for like a year or maybe even more, and I don't know why, because every time it is so helpful. And that's simply having her schedule me. So like we sat down at a cafe. And she wrote down all of the projects I'm working on, all of the things I want to get done that are not done, including stuff that I'm reading, like stuff that a company has submitted for me that I really like, that I haven't finished reading yet, and a spec like my spec with Josh that I need to finish my revision on. So we just like wrote down this list and said, okay, what are the priorities? Okay, these top 3 things are priorities. You have to finish reading this because this is for a company that you met with a month ago and you really need to get back to them. Okay, finish that by Friday. Got it. So now it's in my calendar. There's like a bar across. I use Google Calendar. There's like a bar across it. So I know just at a glance that for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I am reading this comic book, right? And then the next week, there's another bar in purple that says I have to finish our spec with Josh. And so on. And then we just did July so that it didn't overwhelm me. We'll get into August at the end of July, but at least it's set up for me absolute deadlines that I have to do. And she's scary. So when she tells me I have to do something, I will do it. But it was like your mom telling you how to do something or like a teacher telling you, and suddenly you're like, okay, now I'm inspired to get this done. If it's just me giving myself deadlines, it's for some reason it's just tougher because they feel fake. Or you get distracted by all the other million other things you have to do. But this was like the simplified things. I think that's what it did. And so now I'm like ready.
I love it. It's when you respect someone who gives you a deadline and then you feel like you have to, like you're more accountable to the deadline.
Yeah. Because I'll disappoint her. If she's like checks in with me on Friday, she's like, did you read the thing? I'll be like,
yeah.
No. Why?
Yeah.
I was doing other things.
Like you made me drive out to that cafe and sit down with you so you could fail. Great.
Shit.
Thanks. Don't ever fucking have me come out again.
Yeah. So that's a big one for me. And if you don't have someone like that for you, I feel like if you're in a writers group, that's something we would do for each other, or like goal buddies. That's something we would do for each other 100%. So just have someone else sit down with you and go over what you should be doing literally every week, every day of the week. You know, if it's going to take you a week to finish something, which is the case for my spec with Josh, be realistic about how long it's going to take you and schedule it. And it's just so helpful.
You write faster than most people, so you just catch up on everything.
Yeah, well, your lips to God's ears.
Okay. This came in through an email someone had written us, and someone was asking if they should write a biopic for a band or someone that you don't have rights to. Tasha?
I think the answer is yes. However, there are caveats. There's like, you have to go into it with your eyes open. So a little while ago, and by that I mean like 5+ years ago, there was a biopic on Vince McMahon, who is the president CEO of WWE.
Former.
Is he though?
Listen, that's a whole other conversation.
And if you know anything about Vince McMahon, he has a very complicated, very lurid past, present. And there's no way he's going to approve of a biopic being made about him by someone else that he doesn't have sort of control over. And people still wrote the biopic of Vince McMahon, and it made it on the blacklist. And because the voice was so cool, they got so many meetings, and it was a huge success for them career-wise. That movie is never going to get made, and it was squashed. And that happens a lot with these. I think a similar thing with the Madonna biopic, right? There was a Hulk Hogan biopic. Like these all get squashed because unless you get the rights from that family, that person, it's not going to happen. However, if it's good, you make a really big splash, and that's really, as long as you're aware of that being the sort of maybe best case scenario rather than it getting made, then I say go for it.
I totally agree. Obviously Alex Convery being like a key person, he has written 2 scripts on the I think 3 scripts on the blacklist. 2 of them did not get made. 1 of them did, all biopics. I know a writer who is very, very, like he can get stuff made, but he wrote something for someone he didn't have the rights on, and the script ended up going away. And the script is fantastic, but only because, the person gave the rights to somebody else. But I agree with you. And if you go in writing it, not thinking, oh my God, I'm going to get this made, then fine. But if you're writing it and you're passionate about it and you feel like you can do something with it, then absolutely do it.
Yeah. And maybe you'll get the rights. Maybe. That's like the best case scenario.
It's not impossible. And by the way, the blacklist is not guaranteed if you just write a good thing. So even though like the biopics are always on the blacklist, but just go in knowing that nothing may happen, but something may happen. Yep.
That's it. That's our this week in writings.
We did it.
I think we did it. Quote of the day. A writer needs a pen, an artist needs a brush, but a filmmaker needs an army. Orson Welles. Please remember to rate and subscribe. Follow us at ActTwoWriters for more awesome writing stuff. You can follow me, Tasha, at Story Thursday on Instagram or on Twitter at Tasha 3.0.
I am Josh Hallman on Instagram, Joshua Hallman on Twitter.
And as always, the Act 2 podcast is a production of Act 2, a network and support group for the everyday working screenwriter. This episode was edited by Paul Lundquist.